Hello everyone and welcome to our new video. In this video we are going to discuss about the Linux fundamentals. So this course has been designed in such a way that you can go through the Linux fundamentals which are required for you to get started on the Linux. Now you do not need to learn that much advance of the Linux if you are going to work on the Linux from learning the DevOps perspective. Okay, Linux itself has large number of servers and all, but we are not going to learn them. What we are going to focus is on the fundamentals will which will provide you a path to get started and learn the DevOps course essentially. So in this series of videos we are going to discuss about the Linux fundamentals, and it will be having the multiple parts for you to cover the Linux and get started with the DevOps in a comfortable manner. So anyone who wants to make a career in the DevOps, this videos are especially for them to get started on the Linux. So that being said, let's start with our. So there are like many distributions of like SUSE Linux, Debian, CentOS, Red Hat, Fedora, Slackware. Like there are huge number of Linux distributions, but the main thing is that although these distributions might be sounding the different names, but the Linux command mostly remains the same. And the major one of these are either the Debian-based distributions like Ubuntu or the Red Hat-based distributions. Now, Red Hat is an enterprise Linux, which is mostly used in the enterprise environments, and the enterprise Linux, when we say enterprise Linux, it basically comes with the support. So if an enterprise is facing some issue, they can go ahead and request the enterprise support from the Red Hat, and basically they are going to resolve those bugs for them. Okay, now Linux itself is an open source project. Okay, it was created by Linus Torvalds. Linus Torvalds is the creator of Linux kernel. So when we use a term like Linux, it basically we are referring to the Linux kernel. If you see an operating system, there are large number of system tools which are available, like system binaries, which we use along with the Linux kernel. So basically, it's whenever we say about the Linux operating system, it's a combination of both. Alright. So I was talking about the Linux operating system. So it's basically a combination of Linux kernel and the various binaries which are required by the operating system to run. Okay. So right now we are working on a Windows-based system. Okay. What I have done is I have created a virtual machine using the vagrant. So how do you create this virtual machine? So right now what I have done is we are inside the virtual machine. This is our virtual machine, and this is the operating system that we are running right now. Okay, it's a CentOS Linux release 7.8. Okay, and this is the latest release of the CentOS. Now it doesn't really matter whether you are like working on the Red Hat based distribution or whether you are working on let's say Debian based distribution like Ubuntu. Okay, the main thing over there is like only very few of the commands. Like in case of Red Hat Linux, we are having a yum package manager. So the package manager is used to install the various packages that will make you use the, like if you want to install different binaries. Okay, or let's say if you want to install some additional servers on your Linux operating system, then you can use them. So in case of Red Hat, we use yum. Okay, yum is the package manager for Red Hat, but in case of Debian based system, you will see there is apt. Okay, but both almost works in a similar way, so there is not much difference. Now if you have worked on any one of the distributions, then you can surely work on the other distribution as well. Almost 90 to 95% of all the commands and utilities remains the same. Okay, there will be very small differences. Okay, So don't worry, you just need to learn at least like one of the distribution, and you can then work on any of the distributions going ahead. Okay. So now, whenever we talk about the Linux operating system, okay, so Linux is like it has all the features to run the various softwares, various applications that a company does. Why it is so famous? Because first of all, it's open source, and then it's a commercial offering, so you can go ahead and run without any additional licenses. Okay, and it provides you with a detailed logging and all the features which are required to run the application. That's why you will see that the Linux servers are more prevalent in an organization than any other servers like Windows servers or if anything else which was previously being used. Now, first of all, whenever you have logged into the system, we are having like two types of the users. First one is a normal user and then is a privileged user. Okay. So if you want to switch to the privileged user, you just need to do sudo. Okay. What is sudo? Now, sudo is basically a command if you wanted to differentiate. Let's say I wanted to know which user I am. So if I do who am I command, it will show me that I am basically a vagrant user. Now, vagrant, you can have any user. I can create a user named Rajesh. Okay. Now, this would be a system user. It will not be a privileged user. So, if you want to use a privileged user, you will have to either log in via the root user, which is a privileged user. So, root will be having it's similar to the admin user in case of Windows, which is having all the permissions, and this user can create further users or do any activity on the Linux. And we can also do something like, let's say, this vagrant user can run the command which are only meant for the root user. Like, let's say, if I try to do get etc passwd. Okay, so okay, just let's try to install something. Okay, let's try and install them as a normal user, or even better, let's try and add a user named Rajesh. Okay, so what is the difference between sudo and su? Okay, now switch user is something like I wanted to switch from one user to some other user. Okay, let's say I try to create okay, let's try and create a user named Rajesh. Okay, so if I run user add Rajesh, it shows me permission denied. Why? Because I am logged in as a system user. It's not a privileged user. It's not an admin user which can create a user. Okay. So what I can do is, now I can either go to the root user like this. So you will see that it is relog me into the system with a root user. So it has basically changed the user this time. This is what switch user means, SU. SU basically stands for switch user. So you can switch from one user to another user. Okay. While sudo, what is sudo basically? So see, if I'm on, let's say, vagrant user, and I don't want it to change to the root user because root is having all the permission, but I encountered some additional command that I wanted to run as an admin user. Okay, so I can use sudo here and do sudo user add Rajesh. So what happens? In this case, it will not change my user to root user, but it will use the same permission as the root user, while this command would be run by the vagrant user only. So if I run this time it succeeds. You see? So sudo, with the help of sudo, you gain the permission, but you don't switch the user. But if you wanted to change the user, then you are going to use su command. Now, one more thing is, if I try to switch to Rajesh, okay, let's say I try to switch my user to Rajesh now, it's going to ask me for password. Okay, but if I am an admin user, so let's say I am on root right now. Okay, So if I am a root user and I wanted to switch to Rajesh, then it will not ask me for the password. Why? Because I am right now logged in as an admin user. So I can do switch-Rajesh. Okay. Let's talk about the sudo then. See, sudo is basically, let's say because I am doing some work, I might require some things which require admin level privileges. Okay. Now let's say because you require an admin level privilege, it doesn't mean that you have to log in with admin user every time into your system. So sudo makes it easy for the user to run certain commands without changing his user to admin user every time. Let's say I ask you for running 100 commands, out of which 20 or 25 commands require to be run as admin user. So what will happen? Are you going to switch to admin user every time? This will be very hectic, right? So in order to overcome this problem, we use sudo. So if you are having sudo permission, okay, then you can run any command which a root user can do without actually changing or switching to the root user. So you don't need to switch your account. You can directly run any command from your own account. Like, let's say I wanted to assign a password. Okay, let's say I try to assign a password to Rajesh user. So it will not assign me. Why? Because I'm trying to change some other user password, which is an admin activity, right? So you need admin level privileges in this case. So what I can do is, now there are two options for me. Let's say I wanted to run this passwd, I wanted to change the password. So there is one option for me to switch to root user. So how I will switch? I will switch like this. I will have to switch every time to root user to do this and enter the root password and then change. But this is somewhat hectic, right? And I wanted to speed this up, so I can directly use sudo. What is sudo? Sudo will assign me to run this command as root user from my own user, which is vagrant. So I can directly run switch sudo passwd Rajesh. Okay. So though I am not an admin user right now, but because I'm using sudo, so I can run this command. Okay. And then I can assign a password to it. So it says all password token has been authenticated successfully. All right. Whenever we create a user on Linux, basically it assigns it a ID. Okay, it basically assigns it a user ID and a group ID. So I can check this via ID command. I can do ID Rajesh. So Linux identifies every user with this UID, and UID is always going to be different for different users. Okay, for us it's Rajesh. For Linux identifies it with this UID, and this Rajesh belongs to a group of Rajesh. So every time you create a user, it creates a group with the same name. Or you can use group add command and create a new group like developer. So why do you want to create the group? You will have to create the group because let's say there are number of developers in your organization, okay, and you want to assign them permissions on different files and folders. I will shortly discuss the files and folders here. So what happens is this group permissions help you to assign the same permissions to all the user inside that group. That's why we use the groups. Okay, so let's talk about the home directory. So every user which is in Linux is associated with a home directory, so that user can only work inside his home directory. Okay, so what we can do is we can run pwd command to check the home directory of vagrant user. So vagrant is having the home directory of vagrant. Similarly, if I check for Rajesh user, okay, let's say I switch to Rajesh and I run the pwd command, what happens? It will show me the home directory of Rajesh user, which will be /home/Rajesh. This is what the pwd command means. And I can switch to the root user as well. Let's say I go to the root user and I run the pwd. So the root is does not go to the slash home directory. Root home directory starts with slash itself. So basically the root is having the slash root home directory. So whenever I will run anything within the root directory, it goes to. Okay. Now there are some shortcuts. Okay. So let's say I'm on a vagrant user, Rajesh, and I wanted to switch to root. One of the way of doing this is via root. Like I can switch like this. Okay. It asks me for the password. Now I know that admin user does not require the password whenever it wants to switch to some other user. Okay. So in Linux, what happens is I can use sudo and do su hyphen. If I don't specify any user name ahead of this, it's automatically going to switch the account to root. Okay. So if I do this, I become root user. Or if you want to be very specific, you can specify something like this. Then also it goes to root. So if you are not specifying anything ahead of sudo su hyphen, then it's going to switch you to the root user by default. You can specify the username as well, and then it will switch to you to that user. So I can specify here Rajesh, and it will switch me to Rajesh. Okay. Why are we doing this? So that we don't have to specify the password every time. Now let's see for some files and folders. Okay. Okay. So I am on the root right now, and let's see how we can check the directory. So what I can do, see, everything comes under this root directory slash. So in Linux, everything is files in directories, and everything starts from slash. Okay. Let's go inside the slash and see what all directories are available. So if we wanted to see all the directories which are available, we can do ls-l. Okay. It lists all the directory on the basis of len. Okay. And then we can do time and recursively ls-ltr. So it will list according to the date and time. See, first of all, it was not listing. It came in any format, right? Now it's listing like the previous oldest date is coming first and the newest is coming last. And if you wanted to see the hidden files and folders, then you can add a. Okay. So this is the hidden file directory. Okay. This was not visible previously. H is for human readable format. Basically, if you are having some directory of very big size, this you see, it's showing that this is 4 KB in size. It basically shows the directory format in a human readable format. And you can go to the Linux documentation. See, there are many more flags to this. Okay, you don't have to remember all of them. You can directly go to the doc and see and use that command. Okay, and now if I have to go to any directory, what I can do is I can do like cd usr. Okay, so it will change the current directory to usr. You see, if I do, it shows me present working directory /usr. Or if I wanted to move back, I can do cd space dot dot. It will move me back one directory. Okay, this is how you move ahead or back. And let's say I just wanted to go back to the home directory. What is the home directory? Root. So I can just run cd. It will automatically take me back to the home directory of the current user. So this is, let's run cd and see. So it takes me automatically back to the home directory of the user. One more thing that I wanted to show you is, let's say I'm in some other home directory. Let's say I'm somewhere else. Okay. Now, see, I'm somewhere else. I just wanted to go back to my home directory. So what I can use is I can do cd and tilde sign. Okay, you see this symbol? It always take me back. It always take me back to my home directory. Okay. Yes. If I do the pwd, it shows me /root. Okay. So you can find all of these things within the Linux documentation. There are many more things like this. Okay. but you don't have to remember all. Now, let's say if you wanted to print something on the Linux command line, you can do echo command, print this text. Okay, what it returns is it returns this text, and then there is like let's say I'm in etc file diet right now, and let's see what we are having inside etc. So there are quite a lot of things. Let's go inside. Uh, let's say we go inside yum. Okay, and do ls-ltr again, and this time it shows. Let's go inside pause, and there is ultra. Okay, all right. So let's do one thing. Let's say we don't know where is this versions hyphen groups dot conf file is. Okay, let's say we try to find this file, but we are not sure where does this file comes under which directory or where, right? So what we can do is we can directly run the find command. Okay, so what we can do is we can run something like find slash in the root, start from the root directory, and we can put hyphen name and the file name. So we can do something like version hyphen groups.conf. Okay, what this is doing is it's going to search for this file name. Let's run this. This is going to take some time because it's going to run this, try to search this from the entire root. You see, it's automatically now showing us that it has find this file inside etc yum version hyphen groups.conf file. Now let's say I wanted to see what is a size of a directory. Okay, we wanted to see the size of this GitLab hyphen run. Okay, directory. I can do du hyphen sh. Okay, du hyphen sh is basically used to see the size of some file or directory. Okay, and we can do etc GitLab hyphen run. So you see, it shows us that it's 4 KB inside. So this is how you basically identify the size of a file or directory. Okay. Now, how do you identify what is a file and what is a directory? Okay. So let's do ls-ltr/etc. Okay. So these are all the files in folder. Now, how do we identify which is file and which is a folder? Okay. So see here, the very first, yes, this D basically represents that this is a directory, and if there is no D, it means it's a file. Okay. It will only show you either it's a directory or it's a file. Now, okay, this L. See, there is something known as link. Okay, or a soft link. Basically, I will tell you this link shortly. Okay. Now let's say, or let me tell you. Okay. Let's say I create a file. So I can use touch command to create a file, empty file. Okay. So I can do something like /temp/file1. Okay. Now, the actual file right now is inside the temp directory, file1. Okay. What I can do is, or better is, let's go inside the temp directory and create a directory. Let's remove this file1 and create a directory called file1 or file. Okay, let's create a directory. So there is a directory file. You see this? Okay. Now let's go back and we go inside /usr. So what we can do is we can directly point this US directory inside that file. So what we can do is link -s and we can say file to/temp/file. Okay, now if we list this, so what is happening right now? See, we are inside the USR right now, and it's basically pointing to this bad temp. So this has basically created a link. What we can do is we can go inside cd/temp/file, create a file over here. Let's say it's a random file .txt. Okay, and now we can go inside /usr and cd temp. File, and we can say here is the file. Okay, see, what normally happens is like in Linux you are already having, let's say, some file at one location, and you want to point to that file from some other location. So what we can do is we can go inside, like we created a file inside /temp/file. Okay, here is the random file.txt. Okay, now what we can do is we can point to this file from some other directory like USR. We can go inside the USR directory, and if we list over here, you will see there is a file too, which is pointing to temp file. Okay, this is what we call soft link. So you can point one file to, like, one directory to another directory. Okay, see, this linking is done so that we don't have to copy this file again and again. Okay, let's say we don't want it to expose the original file location, so we can use this linking, and it's automatically going to link to some other file. It's just an arbitrary way. Thank you everyone. And that's all for the Linux Fundamentals for Beginners Part 1. Do subscribe to our channel for getting the latest videos, and leave comments if you have any doubts regarding the video. This is Ankit Mittal signing off. Thank you.